Welcome to this deep dive. You've clearly been thinking deeply about what gets us going, what fuels our desire to achieve, given this really fascinating collection of sources you sent our way.
Yeah, definitely.
And as we've been looking through them, this really compelling idea kept popping up, this notion of integration.
That's right. It's something you see across, well, many scientific fields, actually. And it seems especially relevant when we talk about achievement motivation.
Right.
This idea of integration,
Uh,
how different pieces of the puzzle fit together. It's really powerful. But maybe it doesn't always get the spotlight it deserves.
Absolutely. And that's pretty much what we want to do in this deep dive, isn't it?
Yeah,
Our goal is to explore how this integration idea works for understanding why we strive, why we push for success using the materials you sent. And one source, interestingly, really champions this approach.
exactly. And the hope is by looking at achievement motivation through this integrative lens, you'll get a more unified picture, a more complete perspective.
So instead of just like a scattered list of different theories.
Right. You start seeing the connections, how they maybe support each other.
Yeah.
And hopefully that leads to some of those, aha moments we're always after.
Definitely aiming for those. Okay, so to really get into this, let's unpack that central argument first. Why is integration supposedly so crucial for achievement motivation? What's the core message there?
Well, the authors of that particular piece, they strongly argue that integration isn't just like a nice to have. They think it's something that's actually underused right now in the research.
Okay, underused.
Yeah. They point out that we've got this wealth of different theories, different concepts floating around. And while each one gives us valuable insights on its own, well, our understanding gets much richer when we really grasp how they interrelate.
Ah, okay. So it's like we talked about before, maybe, like having different instruments. Each one's fine alone, but when they play together.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
Yeah.
Harmony. You get
Yeah.
a much
Yeah.
fuller, more complex sound, a better understanding. And they even suggest that the really big steps forward, the most important future contributions in understanding achievement motivation, might not come from totally brand new ideas,
Oh, interesting. So not necessarily discovering something completely novel, but
but from effectively integrating the knowledge we already have. They use this phrase, forming a more complete and comprehensive whole. That really highlights bringing these different pieces together.
that makes a lot of sense. It's not about throwing out the old stuff, but seeing how the existing pieces connect up.
Mhm.
Okay, now one of the sources introduces a specific way to do this hierarchical model of achievement motivation. How does that work? What is it?
So this hierarchical model is put forward as like a key tool for achieving the integration we're talking about.
Yeah.
The authors really emphasize that it's designed explicitly and intensively to be integrative. Its
Yeah.
main job isn't to be another standalone theory.
Right, not just one more thing to learn.
Exactly. It's meant to be more like a foundational structure. Think of it as a way to sort of organize the whole landscape of achievement motivation research.
Like a filing system almost,
Yeah.
or a master index.
Yeah, something like that. A framework, basically. It's designed to help categorize and show the relationships between the different constructs. Those are the big ideas, like goal orientation and the more specific concepts, like focusing on mastery versus performance.
Okay.
All those things that exist within achievement motivation research.
Gotcha. So instead of theory A explaining why setting tough goals works and theory B over here talking about wanting to beat your personal best, this model tries to show how those might actually link up under one bigger umbrella.
Precisely. And the source gives some real examples of these different goal constructs, these ways we think about goals and how they slot into this hierarchical model.
Okay, like what?
Well, it mentions things like personal best goals. That internal drive just to do better than you did last time doesn't matter what others are doing.
Right, that feeling of just wanting to improve for yourself. I get that.
Exactly, that intrinsic thing. Then it also brings in potential-based goals, which is more about like striving to hit the ceiling of what you could do,
Yeah.
your own capability limits.
Reaching your full potential, basically.
Yeah. And then there are social achievement goals.
Mm-hmm.
This acknowledges that, we don't operate in a vacuum. Our motivations get shaped by interacting with others, comparing ourselves.
Ah, so wanting to do well partly for like recognition or fitting in?
Could be gaining approval, maybe status, things like that.
Yeah.
It also mentions goals in something called the standpoints model.
Yeah.
Basically, how our bigger viewpoints influence our achievement goals.
Okay.
And it even connects to classic goal-setting theory, especially when you set those specific, difficult goals that are really about getting better, about developing competence.
Okay, wow. So I'm starting to see all these different kinds of roles people talk about: beating your record, impressing others, setting hard targets to master something. The hierarchical model says these aren't totally separate things.
That's a really key insight, yeah. The model gives us a way to understand how these seemingly different goals can actually fit within the same big picture.
Mm,
It's about finding the common threads, maybe the different levels they operate on. So for you, maybe focusing on your personal best isn't totally separate from wanting social approval. The model suggests they might be like different faces of a bigger drive for competence or value.
interesting. Okay. And the source mentioned something specific to help illustrate this. The 2 by 2 standards model. How does that fit in for someone who might know that one?
Yeah, they explicitly say these other goal constructs we just talked about, they fit into the hierarchical model in the same manner as the goals in that 2 by 2 standards model.
Okay. Remind me quickly about the 2 by 2.
Sure, think of it like a grid. One axis is about what you're aiming for.
Yeah.
Are you trying to master the skill itself, or you're trying to perform better than other people?
Right. Mastery versus performance.
Exactly. And the other axis is about your approach. Are you striving for success, or are you really focused on avoiding failure?
Approach versus avoidance. Got it.
So that 2 by 2 grid is a pretty well-known way of mapping out achievement goals.
So if you get how that grid works, mastery versus performance, approach versus avoidance, then you can see how these other goals, like personal bests or social goals, can be kind of mapped onto a similar structure within this bigger hierarchical model.
That's the idea. It gives you a familiar reference point.
Yeah.
It shows how a known framework connects to this broader integration idea.
It makes it less abstract.
And exactly. It shows the hierarchical model isn't just, floating out there, but it can actually organize existing established frameworks from the research.
Okay. Now, something else. When I was reading the source, I couldn't help but notice all the citations. I mean, tons of them, footnotes everywhere. What's the deal with all that referencing in this context?
Yeah. Those citations, they actually serve a really important purpose here.
Okay.
The authors explain they're using them to show that similar patterns, similar relationships, have been found in other studies across the field.
So they're building a case, basically.
Exactly. Building a case that the connections and structures they're suggesting in this integrated view aren't just their opinion. They're backed up, or at least supported by, a wider body of evidence.
So it's not just their own bubble, it's grounded in a lot of previous work looking at different bits of motivation.
Precisely that. It strengthens the argument for this more unified understanding. It shows that different researchers, maybe looking at slightly different things, have often found results that kind of point in the same direction, results that fit this bigger integrated picture.
I think I remember the authors put in a sort of caveat, right? Like they weren't saying every single study lines up perfectly.
That's a really crucial point, yeah. And it shows, good scientific practice. They're careful. They clarify it. They're not claiming every single study ever done supports their view perfectly. Science is messy, right?
For sure.
Instead, they're highlighting that across a pretty substantial body of research, these similar patterns, these connections, they tend to pop up. And that lends credibility to the whole idea of integration, and specifically to the hierarchical model as a useful way to think about it.
Hmm.
They also say, hey, if you're really interested in one specific connection, go look at the cited papers yourself.
That feels much more realistic and responsible, acknowledging the nuance, inviting people to dig deeper. Okay, so if we try and boil this all down, what's the main takeaway for you about this integration idea in achievement motivation based on what we've discussed from the sources?
For me, the core message is really the value, the significant value in not looking at achievement motivation as just a jumble of separate theories,
Right.
but seeing it as an interconnected network.
Right.
And the hierarchical model seems like a really promising way of structure to help us do that, to understand how different goals, different motivational bits relate to each other and influence each other.
And how does thinking this way actually help someone, listening to this who's trying to understand their own motivation or maybe why other people strive for things?
Well, by taking on this integrated view, you can get a much richer, more nuanced grasp of why people are driven. It helps you move past overly simple, like one-size-fits-all explanations.
Okay.
You start to appreciate how different factors play together: your own personal goals, the social scene around you, your basic desires for feeling competent, and you see them all interacting within a more coherent, organized way. It really helps connect the dots between things that might have seemed separate before.
Leading to a more complete and probably more useful understanding.
Exactly. It's more useful in the end.
That's really insightful. It really is like going from seeing puzzle pieces scattered on the table to actually seeing how they click together to make the whole picture. So maybe a final thought for you listening. As you keep thinking about motivation, maybe in your own life or based on these sources, consider this. How could this integration idea, this process of actively looking for the links between seemingly separate concepts, how might that be useful in understanding other complex things you're interested in? Could looking for the integrated picture offer new insights elsewhere too? Something to mull over. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.